Sir, please start.
A very good morning and a good evening to all of my friends. First of all, I welcome you all, my friends, from various parts of the world. I would like to thank IIU for giving me platform for discussing my views on sustainable energy sources. Before I start my session, I would like to tell you something about IIU, First Virtual University. International Internship University is a leading virtual education system and global brand confederation which is most valuable and trusted worldwide and is well reputed in delivering innovative programs. Globally, it is a trusted name for quality training programs and it's committed to provide better and virtual education to all the young learners of the globe. IIU is metamorphosing the conventional education system by cutting down the additional cost and providing access to more than 1,000 plus courses and internships to their e-learners across the world. With the help of its 1,000 plus global educators, in a short span of time, IIU has spread its wing in 195 countries and 6 continents under the strong leadership of its founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit Sir. I, Dr. Harish Singh, resource person of today's talk, welcomes you all. I have been working in the field of energy conservation since last over 25 years. I am as an energy consultant dealing in alternative energy, resources and sustainable development of alternative fuels in various fields of industries. Today, we are going to discuss the sustainable energy and its sources and the latest development in the field and how we are placed today. So let me share you with my screen. Here we are, sustainable energy sources. So we will start with basics, like what is sustainable energy? Sustainable energy is the energy which comes from the sources that replenish themselves at the rate that allows to meet the energy needs. Various type of this energy are like solar energy, wind energy, hydropower energy, geothermal energy, ocean energy. Ocean energy, we can say tidal energy. Like its examples are like sources like wind power, solar power, bioenergy. Bioenergy, we will consider only energies which comes from organic matter, where organic matters are burned as a fuel. Like we are not cutting the trees and we are not harming the natural environment. And hydropower energy, it includes energy which we can receive, we can take out from tidal energy. Now, going by sustainable energy, there are few facts about sustainable energy. Means what is sustainable energy? Why it is sustainable? Energy sources that replenish itself without harming the. There are two things which matters for the world community, for us as a human, like current energy demand and climate for generations to come. Like we need an energy like green energy without harming the climate for the generations to come. And here comes the sustainable energy. Sustainable energy is energy that can never be depleted and does not need to be produced. Sustainable energy is like energy we receive from sun and the wind, where we never have to be produced it. It is infinite and we can get it for an uninterrupted period. In current scenario, hydropower is yet another widely used renewable power source, which account for over 18% of the world total power generation. It shows that in the current scenario, the world population, we are using hydropower as the energy sources. There are some pictures which I have collected just to show you the pictures of how it looks like. It's hydropower. Like we construct the dam where we retain the water and use it to turn the turbines to get the hydropower, to get it from electrical generators. Then comes wind and solar power. Solar power, where we use solar power photovoltaic cell, and wind power, where wind energy is used to turn the generators to generate the electricity. So these are two type of electricity. Then comes tidal power. Here you can see there is a big turbine where we can use seawater to turn the turbine, to run the turbine, which will be connected with the generator to produce electricity. And then comes the biomass power. Biomass can also be sustainable energy, where we use the biomass waste only to burn it to get the energy from the sources which are produced from human waste. So here we are not cutting any trees or not harming the environment. Now, why sustainable energy? The question comes, why we are talking about sustainable energy and where we are today. If we talk about our climate, on current unconditional pledge, the world is getting heated for 1.5 degree rise by 2030. And the entire world, scientists around the world are worried that they can sense the temperature rise. And if the temperature will rise, there will be adverse climatic effect on the human being. And a total of 3.2 degree temperature rise by year 2050, which is significantly high. So here we need to cut down the carbon dioxide emission, and global emission. We need to cut down the emissions. So we need to have technologies and policies exist, but we need to start acting on it. We have technologies, we have basic know-how, but there is not suitable infrastructure has been built where we can start using alternative energies as a source of energy. And now comes the challenges. What are the challenges? As you can see, G20 nations account for 78% of total emissions, which is very significant in amount. Like G20 nations, only the countries G20 nations are giving emissions of over 78%. And the worst part is 15 of G20 nation, 15 of 19, I'm talking about 15 members out of 19 members have not committed to a timeline for net zero emissions. So time has come where we need to commit for the generations to come, and it's very high time. Now I have added a slide for sustainable versus renewable. There is a slight doubt, maybe slight doubt in your mind, that what is difference between sustainable and renewable. Sustainable energies are which comes from the sources which can never be depleted and can be maintained indefinitely for generations. It can be maintained indefinitely and you never have to be produced. While energy considered renewable, where we obtain it from natural sources that replenish naturally. There can be a renewable energy, but it may not be sustainable energy. Wind and solar are sustainable energy sources, but they are also renewable energy. And here we say that most of the renewable energy sources are from form of sustainable energy, but not all. Like we discuss about biomass energy. Biomass energy is a form of renewable energy up to an extent where we are burning human waste and the waste received from various industries and their byproduct. But in case we are cutting our green forest, then it will not be a renewable energy. Moving forward, most sustainable of all energies. If we are talking about sustainable energies, so now question comes, which is the most sustainable for all energies? Answer is wind energy. Wind energy is the most sustainable form of energy currently available. It is harmless. The power of naturally moving air to spin the wind turbines, which turns generators to produce the electricity. That means we can tap the wind energy forces to run the generators. Not only it is great because it provide regenerative form of energy, yes, but it also does not produce any greenhouse gas emissions. There is no greenhouse gas emission while we use wind energy as a source of energy. That is the biggest part, and the where we are. Why wind energy? Now we are talking about wind energy, but why wind energy? Wind turbines convert about 50% of the captured wind energy into the energy. That means its efficiency is around 50%, which is very high in the industry, where its conversion ratio of sunlight by solar panels stands at approximately 23%. That means wind energy is twice as efficient as solar panels. So currently, if we see, wind energy is a great natural source of energy, which can be a future source of energy for the generations to come. Now we will discuss about the current energy scenario. I have taken 3 examples for it, like USA. Now we will discuss about as a world and India. Currently, India is leading the sustainable energy source generation countries. Here comes with USA. If we talk about USA, there is a significantly high part of energy. That means over 74% of energy has been produced from fossils and nuclear, and only 26% comes from wind, hydro, and solar. Here, wind energy is a has a biggest contribution among the green energy, and hydro and solar are less if we talk about USA. And now comes the world. If we talk about the world energy generation, there is about 62%, over 60% of the energy has been generated from fossil fuels, and which is significantly lower than the what USA does. And nuclear power is also contributing to 19% of the energy generation, and rest is comes from 23% of the energy comes from sustainable. 19% comes from the sustainable energy, which includes wind, solar, and hydropower energy. So here we stand as a whole in the world. Now comes India. If we talk about Indians' perspective, we are dependent on electricity production from coal, burning of coal. That is significant contribution comes from coal burning, and which is 46% of the total energy we generate is from burning of the coal. Then comes from oil and gas, that is fossil fuel, which contribute to production of 29% of the energy which we use in Indian household and industries. And then comes the sustainable energy, which contribute to less than 4% of the energy, which comes from sustainable source of energies. And here are the bright spot. If we talk about sustainable energy, there are countries who have shifted to sustainable energy, completely shifted to the sustainable energy, and their names are Albania, Iceland, and Paraguay. Albania and Iceland, they produce 100% of their electricity generation through hydropower generation, while Paraguay, they have their hydropower generation contribution 72% and geothermal energy contribution at 38%. Norway, the country which is reaching nearly 100% of the sustainable energy uses, which stand at around 97% of energy, which comes from hydropower. So these are the bright spot and leader of sustainable energy in the world. Moving forward, now what the global agencies, what we are doing, what world agencies are doing, what are the targets, how we can achieve it, and what are the goals. So going it by like goals 2030. The first goal is 2030 is to ensure universal access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy services. So we need to have three things. The energy sources should be affordable, reliable, and modern energy services. Now, it has been thought that how this can be achieved. This requires universal access to clean fuels and technologies for cooking by 2030. The entire world need to be shifted to green and clean fuel technologies for cooking, at least for cooking gas by 2030s. Why this? Because currently fossil fuels, coal, petroleum, and natural gas accounts for 80% of world energy demand. Our dependency on fossil fuels comes like petroleum, natural gas, coal, their share, their contribution is very high. And we need to shift from fossil fuel to the sustainable energy to cut the CO2 emission to global emissions to save the generations to come. Now comes the future of sustainable energy. What we are doing as a agencies, as a future of generations to come. India's growth rate for renewable energy is the highest in the world. This is the bright spot. As India has achieved a cumulative installed renewable capacity of 92 gigawatt. We have a capacity of 92 gigawatt for sustainable energy sources. What is India's target by 2030? So from 92 gigawatt current production, we are planned to reach 400 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. So in another, say, coming 7 years, the energy will grow fourfold for coming 7 years. And what is target 2047? As Government of India, we have to add 80% of clean grid by 2040. Clean grid, when I talk about clean grid, that means energy coming from sustainable energy sources and less dependency on fossil fuels, which are being imported and high on carbon emissions, and 90% by 2047. So we have set up target to achieve 90% of our grid will be clean, will be fed by sustainable energy by 2047. So these are targets which government has set up for generations to come. Now talk about future energy. What are the future energy? Where future energy lies? So the most part of the world where sunlight always remain, where sun energy is at very high intensity, there we can use solar energy as a main source of energy. So what we think about it, world says about our targets, how we are going about to achieve it. Like 2024, solar energy capacity of the world will grow by 6,000 gigawatt. So by 2024, we will be having a capacity of 600 gigawatt, almost double the installed capacity of electricity currently the Japan has. So adding other source of energy by 2024, the sustainable energy is expected to grow by 1200 gigawatt. These are the few targets we have kept for the generation. Now comes the future fuels. Hydrogen. There is a word coming, hydrogen, which is we can read in our daily newspapers, the magazines, where that the future lies with hydrogen. Now comes where we are in hydrogen gas, what we are doing in hydrogen production, and what are the challenges, what are the benefits. Let's go about this fuel, because there may be time, this may be the fuel for time to come. So hydrogen is the cleanest fuel that we consumed in a fuel cell. That means hydrogen, it produces only water. So there is no emissions. If we use hydrogen is H2 gas. So there is no emissions if we use hydrogen as a fuel. So we can call it green hydrogen fuel. Hydrogen can be produced from variety of domestic resources such as natural gas, nuclear power, biomass, renewable power like solar and wind. So future ray of hope lies with hydrogen gas. Hydrogen can be produced from diverse domestic resources with the potential of net zero greenhouse gas emissions. That is the bright spot we have with hydrogen energy, that it has net zero greenhouse emission. Once produced, hydrogen generates electrical power in fuel cells, emitting only water vapor and warm air. So effectively, there is no emissions if we use hydrogen as an alternative sustainable energy source. Moving forward, see, currently we in the world we are using CNG as a gas to run the vehicles. So question arises, what is the difference between hydrogen and CNG? Why we are going to hydrogen and why we are not CNG, which currently we are using CNG? Because hydrogen is cleaner. Burning of hydrogen produced only water, which is harmless, but burning of CNG produces CO2 and water. So problem comes from emissions of CO2 gas, which contribute to the global warming of the universe. So definitely hydrogen is going to be a next generation fuel, which after burning produced only water vapor. If we compare hydrogen and CNG, there are bright spot, but there are challenges also if we are going to produce it commercially and use it as a next generation vehicle fuel. Hydrogen energy is far more expensive than CNG. Like hydrogen energy cost, if we talk about Indian rupees, currently it is almost 300 rupees a kg against the CNG gas, which may be around say 60 to 70 rupees a kg. So currently hydrogen energy is very expensive, almost 5 times the cost of CNG gases. Storage complications against CNG. Storing hydrogen needs a larger space, a different pressure setup, a different temperature setup. So storing CNG is going to be a challenge which we are going to face, which we are going to devise a tank, devise a material where we can store it, we can transport it. Handling of CNG is more safe than hydrogen. Here comes then transporting of hydrogen is very complicated than CNG. So these are challenges which we are going to face in future. Cost, as I told you, that cost of manufacturing green hydrogen in India is currently about 300 rupees per kg. So the challenges is to reduce the cost, to devise the isotopes, to devise the hydrogen isotopes which can be transported easily, which is less in cost. So future research lies in, like, we need pipelines and explosive in nature where we can how to transport it. Only hydrogen, and once hydrogen enters the pipeline, it can weaken the metal pipes, which can lead to cracking. That means using of hydrogen is again, it's a complicated thing. Hydrogen is also far more explosive than natural gas, which could create safety issues. Like we start using in transport vehicles, how we have to address the concern about its use and how it can be transported, how safety can be ensured. Like vehicle, we need to have a safe fuel. So here comes the challenges. Storage of hydrogen is complex. As I told you, hydrogen energy content by volume is low. It makes storing of a challenge because it requires high pressure, low temperature, or chemical processes to be stored compactly. So storing of hydrogen gas is a complex process. So either we need to convert it by a chemical process, we need to store it at a low temperature, and of course, it is explosive in nature. So this fact also has to be taken care while we design the future vehicles, which we can use as a sustainable fuel. Now comes what are the highlights where we are placed in case of sustainable fuel in the world, how we are placed right now. If we talk about hydrogen, like India, what we are our target by 2030. India has initiated multiple green hydrogen pilot projects in its bid to achieve 8 million ton of capacity by 2030. So we are in a process of transformation in a research, the production, the facility making, where we can achieve 8 million ton of hydrogen gas production by 2030. And how the world is placed, we'll talk about the world by 2050. As a part of net zero emission scenario 2021 to 2050, hydrogen and hydrogen-based fuels could avoid up to 60 gigawatt ton of CO2 emissions by mid-century, equivalent to 6% of total cumulative emissions reduction. That means if we implement our policies which we have set up for 2050, we will be able to cut the 600 gigatons of CO2 emissions by 2050, which will be a significant change in our environment, change in the temperature, which is expected to rise. So it is going to be a significant change. That means we can cut down 6% of total emissions if we implement the policy 2050. Moving forward, innovations. Now I will talk about few innovation. You will also understand what industry is doing, what our scientists are doing. So there is a word come metal hydride hydrogen storage technology. So scientists are in a process to achieve a technology where metal hydride hydrogen storage technology can be used to store the hydrogen production. It can be achieved from electrolysis process. We can store the hydrogen for extended periods once needed. It can be converted as a gas or as a form of thermal or electrical energy when converted through a fuel cell. So it's a technology, it's a word where we can store hydrogen for longer period in chemical form, and when needed, it can be converted into a gas or form of energy, which we can use as a future fuel of the world. Now comes the beginning. In India, we have already started mixing hydrogen gas into natural gas as a pilot project, which NTPC, our leading in energy leading company, they have started mixing hydrogen gas as a as a gas, where like we are trying to use, instead of using hydrogen as a whole, as a gas, we have started using hydrogen into our natural gas. And this project already started in India. So it comes the future. So in this, today we have discussed only about the broad outlines where we are placed in field of energy, how the world agencies, the world energy agencies has committed to the growth of the sustainable energy, and how we are committed to cut the emissions for generations to come. So in the next talk, I will just go into the details. I will go into the slide more details into the parts, each part of the energy, and we will go further detail of the energy. Thank you.